So last month, I talked about how I wanted to give Dungeon Crawler Carl a try, just like a little taste, see if it was the type of book series I would enjoy. So I went for a taste of Dungeon Crawler Carl, and it tastes like Sharkleberry Fin Kool-Aid with like a dash of Sudafed, like the good stuff that you get from behind the counter. The series is amazing. It's over the top in like every way that I enjoy, and I fell in love instantly to the point that my entire TBR was derailed for the month of April. I started the first book on like the 2nd or 3rd of April, and I finished book 7 on like the 21st. So in less than 3 weeks, I binged all 7 books. That is like 140 hours of audiobooks that I consumed in less than 3 weeks. I love this series. It is now one of my favorite book series of all time. I could not get enough. I will be rereading them sooner than later. I've been tempted to just start them over, even though I finished them 4 days ago. They are absolutely fantastic. This reaction, review, whatever this video is going to be a hot mess because I'm just going to gush over the series and word vomit. I'm going to avoid spoilers as best as possible. Like, I'm not going to spoil any major stuff. I may spoil some funny achievements or jokes or something, but none of the plot stuff is going to get spoiled in here. I got to talk about this series. Holy crap. I love it so much. And my wife is reading it as well, and she's on book 5. She couldn't keep up with me. Turned this into a next level binge to the point that I went to listen to podcasts after I stopped listening to the series, because that's kind of what I do in between audiobooks and stuff. And I realized I had not listened to a single podcast in 3 weeks. I noticed halfway through binging the series that I had stopped watching YouTube completely, like at home on my days off. I usually just kind of putz around the house and listen to YouTube videos or just kind of watch them while I'm doing other stuff. Nope. I just binged Dungeon Crawler Carl. It consumed my life for the 3 weeks that I was listening to it. Let's start with some of the basics. Dungeon Crawler Carl is a lit RPG series by Matt Dinniman. I had only read the first lit RPG series ever written before this, which was Guardians of the Flame by Joel Rosenberg. I read the first 2 books. They're not good. Don't waste your time with them, because I wanted to kind of get a baseline or kind of see where lit RPGs were coming from before I went to what is the gold standard for lit RPGs. Now, the premise basically comes down to Carl and Princess Donut, his ex-girlfriend's prize-winning calico Persian cat, go into a dungeon where they have to survive. Now, the dungeon, this is literally like the very first or second page or something. It's within the first few pages. The dungeon is created out of earth. So the surface of Earth gets flattened, and everyone inside, anything with a roof, is killed instantly. And the survivors have an option: stay on the surface or go into these tunnels. Well, Carl goes into the tunnels, and then you find out you are on a show that is televised across the universe, and it is Dungeon Crawler World. And you have stats, you can level up, you can gain classes, get gear. I mean, normal lit RPG stuff. Now I want to start with that stuff. It's so well done in this series. It doesn't really get in the way of the plot. Like, I look forward to Carl and Donut leveling up or getting to another level of the dungeon where they could get a new class, or every time they got done with a boss battle, I wanted to see what gear they got. Here's the thing, is Matt Dinniman did such a good job of tying the gear and the leveling into the plot. There are sponsors that you can get later on. It's a lot like Hunger Games or The Running Man, stuff like that. That's another thing. This is way more influenced by, I think, The Running Man than it is like the Hunger Games, because when they specifically point out early on, they're like, this is not a battle royale. Battle royales don't get good ratings. We want a show that's going to last a while and a lot of people are going to watch, which is in itself pretty funny. But the sponsors can send you stuff, and sometimes they send you something and you're like, what is this? This doesn't help me at all. It comes into play later. And what's really cool, and I think will add to the joy of rereading the series, is seeing these pieces and knowing what they're going to be used for later on. And same thing with kind of the choices the characters make, and just knowing how those choices guided the plot of the story. It's going to be so good. The reread's going to be better than the original read. I just want to kind of go over the things that stand out to me and to other people, and some of those things people don't enjoy, which, I mean, whatever. The first thing is the dark humor and the satire. I absolutely love satire, and dark humor is my thing. One of the best things in the series is the AI. The AI is absolutely demented, and he is my spirit animal for how I run games on tabletop RPGs. That's the other thing. If you play a lot of tabletop RPGs or have played stuff like World of Warcraft or EverQuest, stuff like that, you will enjoy the series quite a bit just on those aspects. Now, I don't enjoy the same things that the AI does because he's a creep, but his dark humor and his achievements and kind of his snide remarks and stuff like that, it's amazing. I know one of the complaints people get is they don't like the crude humor. They don't like all the swearing. I don't know what to tell you. I guess don't read them then. They're just so funny. The core of this series is like the core of the humor and the things I enjoy in real life. The way I've summed it up to other people is it reminds me very strongly of like early 2000s raunchy humor, but with none of the baggage, none of the homophobia, none of the making fun of people with disabilities. I can't say it's good-hearted humor because it's very offensive and hilarious and raunchy, but it's not punching down, which is really good. I really enjoy that aspect of the humor because I can enjoy these ridiculous funny moments without feeling guilty. The other thing is the characters are just perfect. Carl is an amazing character. Princess Donut is an even better character. And then the entire cast that you meet throughout the series, it's so easy to find someone you absolutely love and look forward to seeing them in scenes. Every character feels like their own person. There's no NPC that's just an NPC. It's kind of funny. There are some that are just there for a second and then gone, but even the NPCs themselves aren't bots. They have a personality, and some of them are fantastic. I won't spoil where this is seen, but there's a rockabilly woman demon at one point, which is hilarious and makes absolutely no sense. Speaking of that stuff, the world building is just perfect. Matt Dinniman does such a great job of fitting all these different pop culture things into the series in the best way possible. At one point, Carl has a sound trap, like it's a trap that just lets off a blaring sound, and he had it listed as heavy bass, and he picked some 90s song, and out of nowhere, I won't say what character said it, but they're basically like, have you never heard of Little Pump? And I was like, they're bringing mumble rap into this? The crazy monsters, the insane challenges, all of them have like these little pop culture twists to them in ways that are just so smart done. I look forward to them as much as I do to seeing what happens to Carl and Donut and all of their friends. And the social commentary is another thing that is just so good in this series. At first, you're like, yeah, you know, it's kind of a whole making fun of reality TV and stuff. But in the first book, that's when I knew that this was going to be an all-time favorite series because Carl and Donut get put on a show, and it's like an interview show, and the host is everything that's wrong with like Twitch and actually Kick more than anything. Like these live streaming cultures where they have these diehard fans and the hosts are narcissistic monsters. That whole interview just made me feel sick to my stomach, not only because of what that interviewer was trying to do to the people he was interviewing, but because it felt too real. It was just too in my face about the way a lot of internet culture works, and it was sickening. And you get that a lot in this series. There's a whole big thing about the entertainment industry and it profiting off of the misfortune of others. That doesn't sound anything like what we watch on TV today. Just the fact that this entire universe is built around scummy billionaires who take advantage of people who don't have a choice but have to work for them. It is just a perfect execution of political satire in a way that doesn't feel preachy, doesn't get in the way of the story, but man, is it there and in your face in the best way possible. Just the critiques of social class and the exploitation of the poor or the disadvantaged, all mixed into this obsession with entertainment and content, is just so good. And at one point, I think it's in the first book, you start to see the way some of the governments work outside of Earth. And wow, is that not fun because it's too real. Some of these governments are like, oh, cool, that's like America in 5 years. Or, oh, look, that's Germany in 1934. This is not fun at all, but not fun in a wow, I need to see what happens kind of way. And I absolutely love it. Now let's get to one of the things I enjoy the most, which is the hyperviolence. The stakes are so high in this. It feels like Dungeon Crawl Classics or X Crawl Classics, which I am going to be running as Dungeon Crawler World because they work together perfectly. You make a mistake, you die. The violence is over the top. The monsters are crazy. The AI is demented and wants to kill the crawlers in the most entertaining way possible. And it's just really cool because anyone can die at any moment. You've got these people you're following that are either competing with Carl or working alongside him. and you're like, wow, they're just about untouchable, and out of nowhere they die. And you're like, oh, okay, no one is safe here. It is such an amazing experience because every time you go into a boss battle or something unexpected happens, you're just on the edge of your seat, hoping that the worst doesn't happen. Something bad's going to happen. And a lot of the fun of the battles and the things going on in the series is seeing how Carl and his crew solve them. It's so fun. And I love that he's constantly surprising me with something unexpected that if you were paying attention, most of the clues are there. Now, he doesn't spoon feed you stuff most of the time. It is pretty obvious when he's trying to telegraph something to you. It's not like Sanderson where he explains the same thing 40 times. Matt Dinniman just does a really good job of being like, hey dummy, pay attention to this part, which is also good because this series does not punish you for losing your train of thought or losing track for like 30 seconds or something while you've got an audiobook going. Because, you know, sometimes you'll be listening and then when someone sees you wearing headphones, they're compelled to talk to you, which I don't understand at all. And so, you know, you'll answer them and be like, oh yeah, and then go back to what you're doing. And you don't really miss a lot unless it's one of those very important moments. But like I said, Dinniman does a really good job of telegraphing that, hey, pay attention. The series is so fast paced. I mean, it is cooking. You're just ripped into the dungeon world in the very first chapter and you are just off to the races, and it is non-stop. There are some scenes that are slow and you're literally like, man, this is not entertaining at all. It's these scenes where Carl is interacting with what's basically a elevated NPC, but you find out that that's intentional. He gets a message and they're like, hey, your viewers aren't watching because this is boring. You need to figure out how to fix it. And they're like, yeah, this is affiliated with a different program and that program's writers suck. So you have to kind of spice things up, but not too much or they'll get mad. And you're like, oh, okay. Because it's just melodramatic and over the top, and I won't spoil any of it. It's really interesting that it's there because I was listening to the scenes, and this is kind of the second big chunk of interaction with this. And I'm like, man, this is so melodramatic. This is a soap opera, but somehow worse. That's basically what is said at one point. They're like, yeah, it's like a soap opera, but by writers who don't care. They ran out of amphetamines or something. Okay, I got to circle back to the characters, and especially Carl and Donut. They have, without a doubt, the most beautiful bond I have read in years. It's so good. It was just so great to see the love and the bond they share throughout all 7 books. Like, I'm trying not to dwell on it too much because it chokes me up to think about it. You will start the series because you're there for entertainment. And you know, okay, this drives me nuts because I cannot find the clip on The Simpsons, and I really wish I could, but it's with McBain, and he's upset, and he said, I came here to be entertained, not to feel. And that goes through my head all the time in this series. Like, I came to this series to be entertained, and now you're sending me on a field trip that's one of the most beautiful relationships I've ever read. And it's not even just them. There's others that show up, and it is just heart-wrenching, some of the things that happen. And even when the good things happen, they choke you up just as much because you know it's not going to last. I mean, the dungeon is designed to kill everyone, or as many as possible. They talk about it multiple times. Yeah, this thing's on the 16th floor. There's 18 floors in the dungeon, by the way. And they're like, yeah, this is on the 16th floor, but no one's ever really seen them because no one survives that far. And so every time they get to another floor, you're like, oh, is this the one where everyone's going to die? And while we're talking about relationships and characters, the side characters are just perfect. There's not a single character that I don't like. You know, sometimes characters are in stories and you're like, you know, this might have been a little better without them. It reminds me of The Eye of the World when there was actually a 4th Taviran, like, because it's, you know, Matt, Rand, and Perrin. Well, there was a 4th. As Robert Jordan was kind of getting the book together, and he had plotted everything out to like book 5 or 6 or whatever. Well, it wasn't book 5 or 6 at the time. He said it was going to be a trilogy. There's no way that was going to be a trilogy. But anyways, Harriet, his wife and editor, was like, this guy doesn't matter until way later. Like, why is he here? And Robert Jordan's like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll get rid of him. You know, some books just don't get rid of those characters. They're just there. And you're like, why are you here? Every character in here matters. Maybe they don't matter to the overall plot. They matter to you as the reader because he doesn't write a bad character. And I just can't get over that. It's just astounding that I'm 7 books into the series and I can't find flaws, because the few things that I'm like, it's kind of mid, it's completely intentional. It even tells you that. I've just been completely blown away. I absolutely love this series. I want to just do a quick aside about some of the interesting stuff, like the achievements. Some people complain about the achievements. They do happen a lot, but they're there for a reason. If you are not paying attention to them when you read these, you really should. The AI is dropping hints in just about every achievement, either dropping hints about whether or not he's demented. Like, this is a very, very mild spoiler. I don't know how people get past book 1 without knowing this. I'm just going to tell you, this AI is cooked. There is something wrong with him, is the best way to put it. And it's so obvious from like the second chapter. I mean, the first time he shows up, I'm like, what is wrong with this dude? And then I'm in book groups and stuff, and people are talking about later spoilers, and they're like, oh yeah, the reread's completely different once you kind of figure out what's going on with the AI. And I'm like, I figured out what's going on with the AI in the second chapter. So I don't know, maybe it's just not as obvious to others, but I would probably use that as a bit of advice. Like, go in understanding that you should be paying attention to what the AI is saying, even in the things like achievements. I don't want to spoil any of the achievements, actually. I talked about maybe spoiling 1 or 2, but I'm not going to. They're jokes. They're funny. Some of them aren't funny, but they aren't funny for a reason, because the AI is just mad that you did something. Literally, one of the achievements is like, hey, you did this. F you, because he's mad. If you complain out loud about the AI, he gets salty. And Carl had something, a new item, and the AI is like, oh, well, since you don't like these long dialogues that don't actually affect what's happening in game, because I slow down time while I read this to you, so I don't know why you're complaining. Well, I guess I'm just not going to explain it at all. So here you go. It's a thing. It exists. Bye. And then Carl's like, oh no. And it's just so good. I love everything about it. I want to run games more like the AI when I'm running tabletop RPGs. And I was talking to my wife about it, because she's one of my players in every game I run. And she's like, let's do it. The thing I really enjoy about Dungeon Crawler Carl from a mechanical perspective, like game mechanics, is the stakes are very high, but the gear is very good. The AI is not cheap when it comes to giving out good loot, leveling up characters quickly. And that is how I run games. And it's so cool to see it done in a lit RPG book. My games are very deadly no matter what system I'm running, and they're not deadly because I've only had like 2 character deaths, maybe only 1, but the stakes are crazy high. My games are very violent, very fast paced. You level up quickly, you get awesome gear. My games do not slow down. And here's the thing, even when you're not in fight, my games are very high stakes and interesting when it comes to just interacting with the world, interacting with NPCs, stuff like that. Like I said, the AI in this and the way the dungeon works is like my spirit animal. And I want more of that in tabletop RPGs. And I hope that this series is like a catalyst for shifting some of the play style of like game masters and dungeon masters or whatever. I want to see more stuff like this and less the theater kids are having a moment, so you need to sit aside. Like, I know that a lot of role playing is role playing, but they're games, and I really enjoy a lot of the mechanical aspect, and I like a more even split between game mechanics and plot development. And now I'm just ranting about tabletop RPGs and the philosophy of how to run games, so that has nothing to do with Dungeon Crawler Carl. I forgot about the most important thing here at the end of the video. The narration is fantastic. I absolutely love the narrator. Someone recently complained that he's like a knockoff Patrick Warburton. Well, he can't be a knockoff Patrick Warburton because Patrick Warburton does a voice of a character later in the series. I won't spoil who it is, but it makes complete sense. So maybe they were aware that he sounded kind of like a knockoff Patrick Warburton, but I don't think he does. He really sounds like his own person once you spend a lot of time with Carl. Jeff Hayes is just a genius when it comes to voices. I highly recommend the series. I just sat here and gushed for way too long about something that completely derailed my reading for the month of April. Let me know in the comments if you yourself are a fan of Dungeon Crawler Carl, or if you're not interested in Dungeon Crawler Carl, whichever it is, let me know, because I think most people should give it a try. Like, if you're easily offended, especially by swear words or something, like, whatever, don't give the series a try. But anyone else, I think you will have a fantastic time with it. That's it. Thanks for watching. And with that, I'll see you next time.